Come on, Oblivion, pick up the pace.
I'm coming. Jeez, haven't you ever heard of roadkill? And why do we have to come here in the middle of the night to do another Halloween special?
I heard strange things happen in the pet shop at night during this particular month, so may as well try it out.
So how are we supposed to get into the shop at night?
Through the pet door, of course. What purpose would there be to lock it if we're the only ones who can get in?
Fair enough. Wow, the shop looks really different at night.
Come on, let's go into the day camp while the intro starts up with a fade to black.
You hear the beating of your heart, you know the screaming's gonna start. Here comes the really scary part, 'cause it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again. Oh, you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another cartoon Halloween special. I'm Blackcord, and joining me here is Oblivion3117.
Greetings, ghouls and ghosts of the night! Glad you can join us for another night in the cartoon realms of Halloween. Some are filled with treats, while others are filled with the stuff nightmares are made of. And what better way to watch them all than putting them all in another countdown video?
Exactly. However, this list will only be comprised of 10 cartoon Halloween specials that were considered for my original top 13 list but failed to make it. So let's begin the night with number 10.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 10. Hallow Beanies.
Camp Laszlo has always been one of those iffy shows for me. There's just as much material here that I enjoy as much as there is material that I can't stand. But when they do get something right, they get it right to the nth degree. And Hallow Beanies is no exception.
If the town of Gravity Falls can celebrate a summer version of Halloween, then it only makes sense for Camp Laszlo to celebrate Halloween at summer camp. And granted, it doesn't sound all that impressive at first, but hey, they have the entire summer camp to themselves, and with all the strange things that have happened in the past, this is one night they'll surely remember. So while all the other campers are away for the holiday, Scoutmaster Lumpus is relieved to finally have some time alone from the other scouts. But little does he know that the jelly beans have stuck around for the fun. Laszlo begins to explain to Raj that celebrating Halloween at the camp is a great idea because of the dark atmosphere and hollow winds the forest provides for them as they trick-or-treat at every house.
One thing that I will admit that Camp Laszlo did get right is the atmosphere that surrounds a summer camp. Being out in the middle of nowhere with strange noises and landscapes can do a number on your sanity in the right circumstances. This made for a good Halloween episode because Laszlo understands this, and uses it to have probably the best time the Jelly Scouts have ever had on Halloween. After all, the only thing we really have to fear is fear itself. Laszlo himself may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but he does have a great understanding of how others react to different situations, making him pretty wise when it comes to his fellow campers.
Now do you see why it was a good idea to do the special here in the shop at night?
Now that I think of it, this was a pretty clever idea that you had.
Thank you, but you haven't seen nothing yet until midnight.
Why? What happens at midnight?
Oh, you'll find out, but until then, let's continue with the list.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 9. Candy Bar Creepshow. Something that I admire about Rugrats is their ability to take something mundane and turn it into an adventure. Add in Halloween and you've got one heck of an episode, as the active imaginations of our heroes turn a suburban haunted house with cheap effects into a kaleidoscope of horror with creative frights and high-octane energy. It also pays a great tribute to the kind of gimmick candy that was available during the 90s. I mean, come on. We all had candy that did strange things to our bodies, regardless of how clearly unhealthy they were.
That would explain those yearly trips to the dentist. So the Pickles are having a backyard haunted house, and Angelica vaguely explains to the babies what Halloween is. But all they need to know is that you get candy when you dress up as monsters during this time of the year. Now, one thing that I'm impressed with is the atmosphere that Rugrats was known for, similar to Hey Arnold. In episodes like Visitors from Outer Space or Real or Robot, there was this sort of surreal environmental feel to it, kinda like those lucid dreams, but what's even better is the ominous background music in some of the episodes. Creepy, isn't it?
So the babies decide to give the haunted house a try and are surprisingly not afraid. Heck, the only ones that seem to really be afraid of it are the older kids and Tommy's grandpa. Either way, the episode did a fantastic job with the scares and managed to have a very convincing setting to further enhance your Halloween experience.
While I do like haunted houses as much as the next pack, number 8 is not so much as scary but funny instead, which is not something you would expect during this particular month.
Hey, if we learned anything from Pinkie Pie, it's that you can always laugh at anything, especially at things that are scary.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 8. Scaredy Pants. The early days of SpongeBob had some of the more tolerable episodes, and SpongeBob's Halloween was something I looked forward to back in my childhood. We see SpongeBob is ready to leave the Krusty Krab, but is told about the story of the soul-stealing Flying Dutchman. Now SpongeBob is easily frightened around this time of the year and wants to scare everyone else for a chance, and with the help of Patrick, he might actually get that chance.
While the newer episodes of SpongeBob tend to go into stereotypes of their own characters, the older ones knew how to take a familiar concept and turn it on its head without completely alienating the audience. This is best illustrated by the ending, which I will not dare spoil for anyone.
One thing I have to admit about the old SpongeBob was its kind and childish nature was one thing about the show that I loved, despite his later version of just being annoying. This episode was full of laughs, but also showcased the charm and good nature of our little friend under the sea. I tell you, if the new SpongeBob movie doesn't do some good for this guy, I will lose all forms of respect for this show that I've ever had.
I guess now would be a good time to bring up the fact that the Chipmunks are coming back in a new CGI series in Nickelodeon in 2016.
Ah, my eyes! Make him go away!
Ha! Payback's a bitch, isn't it?
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 7. Nightmare on Wilson Way. Anyone who remembers Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends remembers that Blue can be an absolute prick at times. Then again, he also does seem to care about Mac, as Blue takes preventative measures due to Mac's sugar highs, which have been a problem for him in the past. Also, if there's one person that Blue could not afford to tick off on Halloween, it's Mr. Harriman. So when the prank backfired on Blue, that's genuine fear because Blue has been in the doghouse with Harriman since day one, and anything could result in him getting kicked out.
Oh, but the trouble doesn't end there. For some unknown reason, Mr. Harriman returns from the dead and begins to turn everyone else into zombies, and you know what this means.
You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again.
So everyone in the house is turned into zombies, and now Blue has to do the unthinkable in order to survive the night. Giving Mac some candy. I feel bad for the zombies. I mean, not even they deserve to go against a sugar-crazed kid on Halloween.
Well, you're sure to get a kick out of this. Everyone at Foster's was faking the whole time. They actually got the whole house in on the prank to get back at Blue for all the trouble he's caused in the past.
Doesn't that seem a bit extreme?
Not as much as letting Mac loose on the whole town during Halloween. That kid is crazy as hell.
Wow, can you imagine the cavities that kid will have in the morning?
Not as much as the kids on number 6 will have.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 6. Scary Godparents. Now, one interesting topic that this episode tackles is the undeniable fact that costumes and props nowadays are some of the worst designed and cheaply made outfits around. The more expensive costumes are better designed with more details put into them, but they are still lacking that one quality that separates the monster from the man, and with one simple wish, this is one night you'll never forget.
Given how miserable Timmy's night is becoming, he makes a wish that turns everyone into what they're dressed up as. Unfortunately, this turns the rich kids into destructive robots, and Cosmo and Wanda no longer have magic. On top of that, the Yugopotamians believe that the monsters are actually Earth's invasion army, which gets them preparing for their own battle as well. This leads to a night of hilarious insanity, and given how it's a fairly Odd Parents episode, I wouldn't have it any other way.
So as we all know what happens when a wish goes wrong, it's up to Timmy to save the day by turning himself into a hybrid of mixed costumes in order to defeat the Pumpkinator. But the fight is short-lived and Wanda becomes a fairy again, and candy rains down from the sky, and candy is a good thing, that is, until it comes alive and starts to eat you. Similar to that, but more like number 5 on the list.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 5. Underfist Halloween Bash. There's no doubt that Billy and Mandy had some of the most inventive supporting characters in Cartoon Network history. Here, they were on full display, allowing us to see just what happens when these insane personalities collide in an epic showdown, on Halloween of all nights.
This episode also had some great development for Owen, as he must come to terms with his mummy/vampire heritage while also saving the day from candy monsters led by an evil marshmallow bunny. I don't know, just go with it. And unlike the show's last Halloween special, this one seems to have gone all out with the action scenes, and while this is typical for a show like Billy and Mandy, the story kinda gets lost among all the chaos. I don't know, I sometimes forget what I'm watching.
While this particular special didn't really stand out to me like the one from our other top 13 list did, it was able to create the same energized hilarity that the show could work oh so well. Throw in some unique visuals and some great laughs and you got one hell of a good time.
It's too bad the special wasn't successful in its goal to create a new series with the supporting characters as the main characters. This is a brilliant setup to keep the show alive.
Yeah, but things just haven't been the same for Cartoon Network ever since they came under new management. But hey, at least we got episodes like the number 4 spot to look back on.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 4. Operation Chucky.
Before we get started, we would like to point out that it wasn't intentional that an episode starring number 4 would end up in the number 4 spot on the list.
Wait, it wasn't? Oh, I mean yes indeed. So one of the favorite pastimes of Halloween is trick-or-treating. So when the members of Sector V make a little wager to see who can get the most candy by the end of the night, you know somehow pirates are going to be involved in this story. Then enters Sticky Build. See, I told you, kids are not the only ones who can have fun this time of the year, especially when candy is involved.
Pirates are never to be underestimated, and neither is the rough and tough 10-year-old number 4. He's always been an interesting addition to the team because of how he doesn't take crap from anyone, always getting up in everyone's face, even his own boss, regardless of the consequences. He becomes even more dangerous when something he values is on the line. So when Stinkbeer comes in to crash his good time, you've got a recipe for absolute chaos. The fight between these two is one of the best examples of a bizarre yet awesome situation, as well as how far you can push the limit on child abuse.
So in the end, number 4 wins the bet, and hey, they also have a new addition to their clubhouse. I don't know about them, but I turned that extra space into a game room.
Now that I think about it, have you noticed that most of the episodes we've went over so far have to do with candy? I mean, where are all the monsters and haunted houses and whatnot?
I was hoping you'd say that. As we come close to the end, you'll find that these specials have more to do with scares and monsters rather than candy.
Then what are we waiting for? Let's get a move on!
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 3. That's the Spirit. I never thought I'd see the day that Phineas and Ferb would actually have a Halloween special, especially when the premise of the show takes place in the middle of summer.
Something that Phineas and Ferb prides themselves on is their ability to combine 2 different story arcs into one episode and have a coherent storyline all the while. When introduced to the haunted house, the natural curiosity that Phineas and Ferb have would make them want to take a closer look and turn it into something bigger. Meanwhile, Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who will invent an Innator device at the slightest provocation, would find some outlandish way of destroying grass. Just go with it, regardless of the consequences. The entire episode suddenly enters a chaotic void that only the genius writers of the show can wrap up in a perfect bow.
I like how this episode doesn't involve the show's old cliche of having Phineas and Ferb invent something convoluted that vanishes by Dr. Doofenshmirtz's invention just in time before Candace can bust them. This episode felt like a short break from that tradition and does offer some great visuals in the design and operation of the haunted house.
Overall, Phineas and Ferb continue to demonstrate their proficiency of balance, because this episode was an excellent balance of humor, characters, and scares. Just what I want out of a Halloween special.
Wish I can say the same thing for the next special. This is one Halloween that you'd wish you stayed home for.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 2. Cat Dogula. This show is weird, no question about it. Oh, and a Halloween episode about vampire ticks? Even more bizarre!
Well hey, it was the 90s. Cartoons back then tend to have the strangest premise and character designs, as well as comedy that mainly involves slapstick, social satire, and sarcastic tones.
There's no doubt that Cat Dog's zany, almost psychotic comedy and speed is enough to make any situation these two get in crazy. But this episode went the extra mile by taking our already messed up main characters and putting them in probably their wildest situation yet. It's a chemical reaction of randomness that you just have to see to believe.
One thing you got to consider when you talk about zany or bizarre shows like Cat Dog is the build-up to the final act, such as the night begins with Cat Dog carving pumpkins and then hearing about strange vampire sightings but consider it just a holiday hoax, and then head out to trick-or-treat while the rest of the town goes out to track down the vampires.
After a night of trick-or-treating, Cat Dog decides to take a shortcut through a cemetery, big mistake by the way, and Dog ends up being bitten by a vampire tick.
Okay, I just have to stop for a second. It's been shown on numerous occasions like Teeth for Tooth that whatever happens to either cat or dog affects the other one instead. So Dog is bitten and yet Cat is not affected? Lola comes and explains the whole situation on who the ticks are and what you need to do to turn everyone back to normal before the 12th stroke of Halloween night.
You know, I never understood the whole "you must remove the curse before midnight or be cursed forever" trope. I mean, why is it always midnight?
I never understood that too. I mean, if it's not midnight here, it's most likely midnight somewhere else. So what, does the curse work on specific time zones or something?
By the way, what does happen to this shop at midnight?
Or just some old legend about a pet curse that turns all pets in the shop into werewolves or something like that at the stroke of midnight during a full moon. But hey, we're almost done with the countdown and we still got an hour left before midnight.
Red, that clock is an hour behind.
Wait, what? Something tells me the curse is not just a legend.
This is Halloween, this is Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Number 1. Spooky. Whoa, dude, we look amazing.
Yeah, I can get used to this new look. I wonder how long it will last.
Well, I say we finish with number 1. Then we go see what these new OCs of ours can really do.
Sure thing.
Lilo and... wait. Lilo and Stitch is one of my favorite Disney movies, and one of my favorite Disney Channel shows. Why? Because they understood how to keep the audience interested in the characters, and the best way to ignite interest in any character is to reveal their darkest secrets. The experiment introduced in this episode is spooky, a nasty piece of work that can morph into anyone's worst fear.
Nice doggy.
Is he gone?
Yes, he's gone. You can come back now.
See what I mean?
Now I do. And while Disney has produced some freakish monsters and dark themes in the past, they are outstanding when it comes to family movies and shows that can tackle real-life issues in a kid-friendly fashion.
This episode shines because it is able to combine humor and heartbreak, while still feeling like it belongs to the Lilo and Stitch storyline. For example, Pleakley's worst fear is his own mother, and Jumba's worst fear is his ex-wife. On the other hand, Stitch's worst fear is water, which makes a good deal of sense considering how he's almost drowned to death several times already. And Nani's worst fear is Cobra taking Lilo away.
Fear is something that can keep you in the past or afraid of the future, but only when you realize that your fear is just a thought do you begin to live in the present. The song that Lilo sings in order to not be afraid anymore comes in handy for Stitch, who overcomes his fear of water in order to save Lilo and catch the experiment. So in the end, being afraid of your fears is fine as long as you don't let it run your life, but laughing at your fears can make life a whole lot brighter.
If I had to use one word to sum up this episode, it would be balance. And not just balancing the story arcs like Phineas and Ferb did, by going the extra mile. It knew how to balance out comedy and drama, making it a very unique Halloween episode, and overall episode as well.
That was indeed a fantastic special. I almost feel bad for not putting it on the first countdown video, but hey, at least it got #1 on this list.
Hey, if more shows continue to make specials like this, we might see this one again in the future.
I hope so. Hey, while we still have these phones, do you want to go scare some people in the Rift Cafe?
Hell yeah! Just so long as no one is dressed as a dog catcher.
Or clowns for that matter. Those things are freaky.
You turn to scream. It seems a little mean. Knees are shaking, cold sweat, and your heart's a racing.
Those claws, those teeth. Who's that underneath? Is that a hedgehog? Your eyes can't believe
He's been wolfified. You better fly, 'cause there's no one here to save you, and you cannot deny he's been wolfified. Just say goodbye, 'cause there's no place left to run to. There's no place left to hide. Wolfified.
I don't feel so good about this.
Wolfified.